What up, Randies? My name is Stan, and I sort of look like a hipster today. But whether you're a weird hipster-looking guy like me, or you're just a normal person, you've probably heard of a little character named Super Mario. Whether your first experience was with the NES original or not until the Galaxy games, it's always been clear that most of the main series Mario games are groundbreaking platformers. But because we're celebrating 2 December, I think it's time we take a look at the best of what 2D Mario has to offer. Before we do though, I think we need to set up a few ground rules. First, no spin-offs. Trust me, if I included spin-off Mario games, not only would it take me months to narrow it down, but half of the top 5 would probably be RPGs, which just doesn't seem right. Another rule is that 2.5D and more modern Mario games are perfectly fine, just as long as they don't use 3D in cutscenes or, well, actual 3D. Cough, cough. It's for these reasons that I won't be including New Super Mario Bros. Wii, Wii U, 2, you get the point. And finally, I won't be counting games that predominantly star other characters such as Yoshi and Wario, because I really want to celebrate the Red Italian Plumber in this video. Also, no Mario Maker. I know it's technically a Super Mario game and a wonderful platformer, but it's like comparing Star Wars Battlefront to LEGO Star Wars. Don't get me wrong, there's a time and place for both of those games, and I love them both to death, but it just sort of feels unfair. Okay, so with those out of the way, we can finally get down to business. Here are the best 2D Super Mario games ever made. In last week's Zelda video, I left the second installment off of the list mostly because it tampered with the formula a little too much for my taste. But oddly enough, Super Mario Bros. 2 makes this list for the exact same reason. You see, this game is basically just a reskinned version of the Japan-only Doki Doki Panic, which explains the huge difference between this and the original's gameplay. But you know what? I'm glad we got it over the Lost Levels. Despite not being your run-of-the-mill Mario game, this one introduced so much variety, and even a lot of elements that are still being used today, such as Luigi's higher jump, and enemies like Shy Guys. This sequel has a ton of smart platforming, and by introducing the pick-up and throw mechanic, which is honestly the entire game in a nutshell, it added a ton of new scenarios that you couldn't get from the original NES Classic. Also, you could go left! To the left, to the left! Which seems so simple today, but was definitely a bigger deal back then. I'm also a fan of Wart and the more fantastical Dream World. Super Mario Land will likely end up being the most controversial choice on this list, and I'll be the first to admit that it's not for everyone. Produced by legendary developer Gunpei Yokoi, this was the first game in the Mario franchise that Shigeru Miyamoto had no part in, and, well, it shows. Taking place over 12 worlds in the foreign Sarasa Land, this game replaced Peach with Princess Daisy, uses hearts instead of 1-up mushrooms, and features Gradius-like shooting segments where Mario pilots a side-scrolling plane or submarine. It's weird, but oddly enjoyable despite being very short. I really enjoyed the game's use of realistic imagery, such as the Egyptian pyramids, to bring the worlds to life. I also really need to praise the music, as once again I'm astounded at how such an underpowered console can produce such catchy tunes. Most of all though, I appreciate that this game took bold new steps and really tried to mix up the formula, and for all of its shortcomings, it still definitely deserves to be on this list. Now, I know I name-dropped a ton of titles from this segment of Mario's adventures during the intro, but this game doesn't break any of those rules, and besides, even if I didn't have those rules in place, this game's still the best of them all. This is the one that reinvented 2D platformers for a new generation, and got new and old fans alike to once again shout, "Just a minute!" when they were called for dinner. This game takes all of the best aspects of the original 2D games and adds more polish, more power-ups, more items, more to collect, more boss battles, while doing a ton of innovating in its own right. You know that satisfying wall jump you could pull off in Mario 64 and Sunshine? That's in here, and in my opinion, it works even better in a 2D space. The completionist in me also has to give this game credit for introducing the star coin mechanic that would eventually go on to make an appearance in pretty much all later 2D and even some 3D Mario games.
Along with a decent enough multiplayer, a few cool secrets, and some amazing music, this game was the kick in the pants Mario desperately needed after 10 years of no 2D platforming, and millions of players around the world would agree. Controversy, thy name is Mario. I enjoy Mario 3, and I'm objective enough to know that this entry made leaps that were mind-boggling for an NES game. I'm also aware enough to know that because this game was released before I was even born, that I can't really fully appreciate the leap because I've been spoiled. But even so, I do feel like it's still only the second best 2D Mario game. So what does it get wrong? Well, honestly, nothing. The game's one of those few that actually deserves a 10 out of 10. The soundtrack's expertly crafted, the levels and power-ups are probably the most inventive in the series and have been endlessly recycled for newer games, and barring a few specific titles, I don't think I've played a game with a more rewarding secret system. In any other franchise, this would be the pinnacle. It's a bigger, better interpretation of one of the most iconic games of all time. And the final boss level is also one of my personal favorites in video game history. And yet... Yeah, so I'm one of those people who prefer Super Mario World to Super Mario Bros. 3. I'm sorry if that offends you, but let me just say this before I even begin. If you love video games as a medium, you need to experience both and experience them fully. They're both perfect games that deserve your time, and I honestly just think it comes down to personal preference. Okay, with that out of the way, let's start again. Super Mario World is a video game masterpiece. The visuals are crisp and updated for the 16-bit era, the music, although probably not as iconic as 3's, still boasts some insanely catchy tunes that perfectly fit the game's tone. There's more variety in enemies, a ton of neat secret pathways, and Star Road is a thing of legend. But you've heard all of that before, so why is this the best 2D Mario game of all time? Well, that boils down to two main reasons. The first is Yoshi. Not only was the green dinosaur first introduced here, he also adds this extra layer to the gameplay that makes a ton of new options possible. It's Yoshi along with the Cape Feather that really elevate this game as probably the best two power-ups ever put into the franchise. And that perfectly ties into the second reason this game is so good, which is its level design. You see, a lot of people complain that with a power-up like the Cape Feather, the game is broken, but I disagree. I believe that it just proves how amazingly this game is designed, as like Yoshi, it adds an entirety of depth to every level just by existing. Essentially, it allows every level to be played and explored in two unique ways, and if you don't attribute that to good level design in a platformer, then please be my guest and go try it for yourself in Super Mario Maker. Because of all of these reasons, an iconic final boss, just look at that clown car, and the feelings of joy you get from experiencing this gaming titan, it rightfully deserves to be called the best of the 2D series. Here we go! And you thought I'd forgotten. So why is it here, and what even is number 0? Well, honestly, I feel like all 5 games on this list are technically better than the 8-bit masterpiece, but I still had to give it some love, so here we are. This isn't just the most memorable Mario game ever, but it's also very likely the most iconic video game of all time. With its simple but revolutionary gameplay, it helped bring the industry back from the brink of destruction, and its innovations are still being felt today. Plain and simple, before trying any of the games on this countdown, you owe it to yourself to at least clear level 1-1 in this behemoth of a game. Even with the rise of HD graphics, orchestrated music, and cinematic cutscenes, trust me, it still holds up after all these years. Now that was probably the toughest list I've ever had to make, but I really hope you enjoyed my take on the best 2D Mario games. Make sure you stay till the end of this video to see what we have planned for the finale of 2 December. Check out our other videos this month, and I hope you enjoyed the new Star Wars. I also want to take this time to thank Arcane Toaster, Super Ugly 18, and RoyBoy140 for all contributing to 2 December. Your support means a lot, and I really appreciate the collaborations, guys. Make sure you subscribe and follow us at Random Tens for more nerdy content, and as I always say, happy hunting, baby rhinos.
So long, Bowser!
This holiday season, one man, two regions, and hundreds of friends to find. And this time, it's personal. Starring Ember, Arcane John, Retro, Shield, Oddsaws, Thomas, Super Ugly, and Stan. Wait, that's not Stan. And Stan! Pokemon Generation 2 in-depth review. Coming next weekend. Maybe.
Traditional. I always lose it at that part. Traditional. Traditional. Breaking down the barriers of a traditional. See, I can say it when it's like.